Welcome to the Wed Pro podcast, the podcast for Wed Pros no matter their stage. We are your hosts, Katie and Roxy, and this is the Wed Pro podcast.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Wed Pro podcast. First off, I want to say a massive thank you for those of you that are sticking with me through this little mini-series. If you are just jumping in now, please do go back and listen to the first episode that dropped on Tuesday. And you can follow along with us every day over this little mini sprint right the way for the next few days. And I have to admit, it is feeling slightly a little bit more natural now to be sitting here kind of talking to myself on these thought episodes. In fact, I'd really love to figure out how to record on a walk soon, I think. Usually I have my absolute best ideas when I'm on a walk with the dog or when I'm standing in the kitchen making the kids tea. So bear with me while I figure that out in the background. But one day you may just hear me walking with the dog in the background. Okay, before we dive in, if you are enjoying these episodes and having any kind of light bulb moments along the way, I would really love it if you did share the podcast on Instagram. Go and tag us at business_. It means the absolute world to see you guys connecting with this, listening, and showing up for yourself and your business as well. And if you do know of a wedding supplier who would get something out of listening to this podcast, please do share it with another Wed Pro. Okay, let's dive in. Yesterday, I did leave you with a little bit of a PS. I told you that I almost didn't start those networking events that I eventually grew to 10,000 wedding suppliers. I told myself that I was too busy, that nobody would come, that it wasn't my place to be giving people advice. And that voice is really something that I'm sure you can probably relate to as well, and something that we all hear, that kind of uncomfortable gap between what we want to do and the kind of beliefs that we have and the voices that we talk to ourselves about in our heads. And I absolutely do see this every single day. I work with amazing suppliers who are incredibly talented and who look incredibly successful on the outside, but are quietly terrified on the inside. And I wanted to just chat to you about one of the clients that I do have. We're going to call her Olivia. And on Instagram, her wedding business looked absolutely amazing. She was doing wonderful weddings. Her content was really pristine. But behind the scenes, she was absolutely exhausted. And she came to me and she said the exact phrase I hear all of the time: Katie, my marketing just isn't working anymore. Now, when Olivia told me that her marketing wasn't working, she immediately went into and listed off a load of tactical things that she was doing and showing up for. So she was posting reels, but she felt like she wasn't really getting any views. Her SEO felt like it wasn't really doing anything and felt really flat. And she felt like even though she was posting on social media, that she wasn't really getting the traction in terms of bookings on the other side of it. And when our marketing feels broken or when things kind of change inside of our businesses, our kind of natural reflex is to fix the tactics, right? We think, I need to change the way that I write a caption. I need to look at maybe different platforms. I need to add more keywords to my blog, that sort of thing, right? But here is the absolute truth and what kind of I've discovered from working with wedding businesses now for the best part of 15 years. Most marketing problems are not tactical execution problems. It's not down to how you're executing it. They are strategic decision problems. And there's a really brilliant analogy by Seth Godin about this. He takes this idea of skiing, and what he says is that carving your turns better on the ski slopes is a tactic, right? But choosing the right ski area in the first place, that is a strategy. And let's just put this into some kind of wedding industry context for a moment. Imagine a wedding photographer who is quietly panicking because their website just isn't converting. And they initially think it's a search engine optimization problem, right? But when we dive into it and we have a little bit look at their Instagram grid and their portfolio, they are posting light and airy photos, dark and moody photos, documentary style blur shots, highly posed traditional family portraits, And they are doing a little bit of everything because they are terrified of losing a single inquiry. So they almost show up everywhere so that they don't lose an inquiry. So if somebody kind of lands on their content or lands on their website or lands on their Instagram, they're going to initially get a connection. But what actually happens is a couple looking for a relaxed documentary style photographer lands on their page, sees those kind of stiff traditional portrait shots, gets confused or doesn't see enough of what they want and leaves. Now, that isn't an SEO problem, that's a positioning problem. And if you're sat there thinking, you're hammering your head against a little bit of a social media wall, a little bit of a wall feeling that you're not good enough at marketing, it doesn't mean that you are broken or anything that you are doing is broken. It usually just means that you didn't have the right strategy to begin with. And so many wedding suppliers are really exhausted because they are trying to play the algorithm. They're trying to beat the algorithm, right? But algorithms exist to serve platforms. They don't exist to serve your wedding business. So I'm just going to say that again. The algorithm isn't there to serve your wedding business. They're there to serve the platform, whether that is TikTok, whether that's Instagram, whether that's Facebook, whatever it is, right? And we have confused as business owners, feeding the machine, feeding the kind of platform, feeding the algorithm with actually serving our couples. We look at impressions, reach, likes, but these things are really just exposure. It's just visibility, right? The difference really is in relationship, and relationship is what is influence. So when you are putting your business together and thinking, how does this translate, Katie, into my wedding business? What kind of happens when you optimize only for the algorithm and you put out content only there for the algorithm? You create content that sounds very much like everybody else. And we live in the age of kind of algorithmic sameness. I'm going to say that again. Algorithmic sameness. And what I mean by that is a lot of the same stuff just being shown and shown. And actually that then makes you see more of the same stuff, right? Because that's how the algorithms work to feed us things. You end up doing something trending, you end up jumping on whether it's a hook trend or a social media trend. You end up, maybe a few years ago it was to dance and point at bubbles, and you do these things, or whether it's a post that's 5 things you forgot to do at your wedding, whatever it is, you do that because you know that's the format for today that gets views. But if you're thinking the long-term game or thinking about strategy, if you're a high-end luxury wedding planner, does those kinds of posts actually build trust with a couple spending 100k on their wedding? No, it gets you rented attention, right? But what it's doing is sacrificing your long-term brand equity and your long-term brand in the industry. So I want you to flip this on its head, and I want you to remember where you heard this and what I told you. The algorithm is not your audience. Right? Algorithms reward things like novelty, they reward frequency, the amount of times that you post, but your actual audience, the people who pay you money, who reward consistency, so algorithms reward novelty, jumping on trends, things like that, newness, and frequency, the amount that you are showing up. But your actual audience, the couples who will actually pay you money for your service, for your product, they reward consistency, authenticity, being authentic, connecting, and expertise. And you do not need to post more. You don't need to jump on every single trend. You actually need to say something that matters to your couples. Because when a couple lands on your website or visits you and finds you on Instagram, they are not looking to be impressed by your cleverness. They are trying to steer themselves. They want to know, is this business for me? Do they know what they're doing? Can I trust them? But because a lot of wedding suppliers are lacking strategy, they try to be everything to everybody. And when a brand tries to be everything, it ends up feeling like nothing in particular. And a huge part of this definitely falls into the traps of selling features instead of benefits and integrating those two ideas. But florists without a clear strategy will build their marketing around features, around things like I use sustainably sourced roses, I provide a 48-hour turnaround, or whatever it is. Maybe they're sustainable, they don't use floral foam. And that is wonderful, but the couple doesn't buy those particular things. They buy the outcome, right? A strategic florist sells on a completely different story. And one is a technical feature, and the other is selling the transformation. Now, marketing channels and whatever channels that you decide to show up on, whether that is social media, TikTok, in person, referrals, whether it's venue relationships, whether it's ads, marketing channels, they don't create clarity. They just amplify whatever already exists. So if your story is fuzzy, if your branding is a little bit confused, Instagram just amplifies that confusion. Content isn't a situation where it fails or succeeds. It just reveals things, and it reveals how clearly, as an industry and as a business, you understand your couples. And the strongest wedding brands and the strongest businesses that I see it succeeding at the moment do something that actually feels really risky at first. Now, what they do is they say less. They don't say more. They don't try and film more. They actually say less. So this looks like narrowing their services, stopping appealing to everybody. They embrace what they're not just as much as they embrace what they are. And they also look at who they don't serve. And this is really not about it being a limitation for you, or limiting yourself, or limiting your business, or limiting your opportunity. It's about you really getting aligned in your business. And if you're sitting there overwhelmed, thinking, oh my gosh, how do I put this into place in my business? If you're overwhelmed by your marketing, please just pause and think about not adding more noise, but instead asking yourself, what should I publish next? Instead of asking yourself, what should I publish next to get views? I want you to start asking yourself, what do I actually want to be known for? And as I told you yesterday, that gap between where you are and where you want to be has got nothing to do with how talented you are. It's strategy and it is structure. So once you start to make decisions from a place of strategy, marketing stops feeling like persuasion and selling stops feeling like persuasion, and it just starts to feel more like communication. So tomorrow, this is a nice quick one today, we're going to be talking and diving into how you actually build these foundations. How do you find that clarity, that understanding, so that when you do post and you do have something to say, it actually converts into paying clients. We're going to be looking at how you stop running your business on hustle and start these really solid foundations. Because when you do start to make those kind of CEO decisions, once your positioning is crystal clear, something happens. Ads start converting, SEO starts to compound, inquiries become higher quality. Not because those tactics and those things that you did suddenly improved overnight, but because everything else finally starts to make a little bit more sense. And we're going to be talking tomorrow exactly how you do build that foundation. Make sure that you do tune in. I'm really looking forward to seeing you for our little mini episode tomorrow, whether that is actually out walking the dog, or maybe I won't have figured it out by then. But thank you so much, and I will see you tomorrow, guys. Bye.